People, welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to episode 3 of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. If you haven't checked out any of the previous 2 episodes, then head back to the channel and check those out. And before we get into today's episode, please do smash the likes on this video and subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done so already. We're on the road to 160k subscribers now, so every subscriber counts, so please do subscribe to the channel. Episode 3, here we are. Delighted to be joined by Lewis again, mate. Thanks for joining. Hope you're good. Great night at Stamford Bridge last night, 3-0 against AC Milan. We won't go too much into the game. We kind of already covered that. But the only disappointment, as Graham Potter put it, was obviously Wesley Fofana coming off injured after 35 minutes, got the opening goal. People were worried that it was going to be a bit of a long-term injury. The news come out today, it's sprained right knee, he's going to be out for about 4 weeks. Whilst that's not ideal, it's a lot better than a lot of people were expecting. Obviously, he's going to miss a fair few games because we've got them coming so often, weekend, midweek, following weekend, but I think that's the kind of a best case scenario almost out of a difficult situation. Thoughts on that to start with before we discuss about who might kind of come in and replace him? I mean, just a sense of relief, really.
Yeah, like it's a shame because we finally got to see our best back three play together, and like after the goal, we looked so solid, but for the rest of the game, but with Fofana, it was only a 5-10 minute period. Like, at least it's a 4-week injury. Everyone was worried that it was an ACL when they saw the replays and everything. And getting a defender in for 69 million and then losing him for another year off that with the extra 6 to 12 months of recovery after that, literally worst case scenario. Even the fact that we lose him for 4 weeks is tough now because we're one defensive injury away from bringing Azpilicueta back. And I love Azpi, but the guy isn't there
He's
anymore.
done.
Not the same player. But Chalobah came in and like he fit in seamlessly. Didn't really feel like much of a difference to Fofana, and he helped to isolate Leao and keep him quiet. So as long as he can keep that up over the next few games, we won't notice the difference. But there's not going to be a lot more options for rotation. That means we will see Azpi more in the lineup. And I don't even want to say it like I'm singling him out or anything, but it's just I love him, but it's just way too far gone. And that injury means now we're a bit more tighter at the back. And that's what worries me over the next few weeks. I kept saying this is just about managing injuries and being able to rotate and keep your squad fresh. It's about who ends it with the least injuries, because this is an unattainable amount of games for the entire top 6. We're all going to suffer injuries. This is already the first one. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to keep happening, but it's now about how we continue to manage it, because that means more minutes for Chalobah. That means more minutes for Thiago Silva. And we're already talking about how we want him to have less minutes because he had way too many last season. I don't know. Brings a question.
Yeah, it does bring a question. I mean, you come on touching on kind of how it's going to sort of affect the back line. I mean, you'd probably expect the obvious choice would be Chalobah to come in and play at that right centre back position. I think that's what he should go with. I think, Chalobah had a really good season last season, a breakthrough season, and then I think it's been pretty hard done by at the start of this season by Tuchel. Played once against Leicester, and then we haven't seen him since. He doesn't even feature under Potter, and then obviously the injury and he features. Sometimes you just need that bit of luck. But I mean, do you think he deserves a run of games? Because he has been kind of quite hard done by, I feel. And I think he's good enough to play for us. Yes, he's still got to develop his game. There's still mistakes in there. He's still a young boy. He hasn't got an awful lot of top-level experience. But I think he does deserve a run in the team.
Yeah, I think like Tuchel really did him a bit harshly in the last few weeks, and it is what it is in that regard. But he's got a new sense of opportunity now, the new manager coming in, and the fixtures were already going to be favourable to him in that regard anyway. We had to rotate, so he was going to get given opportunities. Now he's got a real chance to staple himself into the team. Like last season, there was issues in the second half of the season, but you're always going to have those ups and downs when you're a young player and you're only just getting into the first team squad. I thought he still showed a lot of signs of being a class centre-back for us. I thought his recovery pace was good. I thought on the ball he was making decent passes out and everything, even in spite of some of the deficiencies. There was a period where he was keeping AC out the side, and it was deservedly so. Like Silva, Rudiger, Chalobah was a solid back three for us. So I'm not as worried with Chalobah in the lineup. It's just I would have liked that ability to rotate a bit more, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Like I can't judge players when they haven't even played yet.
I think obviously another option that is potentially available as well is obviously shifting Koulibaly over to that right centre back and playing Correa as left centre back in that three. Probably perhaps maybe slightly less desirable, just because I'm not saying that Correa is a bad left centre back, but it's not really his natural position. So you'd want to stick with Chalobah. I mean, to be honest, anything that, as you said, no disrespect to him, anything that really keeps Aspie out the side is going to be a bit more preferable as far as I'm concerned. But just lastly on the defence, you mentioned him earlier, Thiago Silva, obviously outstanding again last night. Are you concerned that we're so heavily reliant on a 38-year-old to play pretty much every game in the defence? Like, because for me, that's like, it's a little bit concerning. I know we've got quality around him, we've got very good other defenders, but he is the guy that, you know, is the mainstay. He always plays, and at his age, he can't play all these games. And I just feel that we're massively over reliant on him.
Yeah, I kind of did, but it's like we did the same thing last season, and somehow we managed to make it through to the end with about 68, 69 games played. So I could believe that we could do it again, but with the World Cup and with all the fixtures that we have coming up as well, I don't think that is the best option for us, especially now with the Fofana injury. But Silva can do it. He's definitely capable of it. I wouldn't write him off on that regard. And playing in the back three does help to protect him as well, and it means he can just focus on positioning and blocking, and that he is probably the best in the world at. The more worrying part is that we have to rely on him for the majority of our progressive plays. He's the one spreading play. He's the one making long balls forward into other players. We're not seeing that as much from the midfielders or from some of the defenders as well. So that's what I'd want to see us improve on. That's the worrying part for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I get what you're saying. I mean, hope it's going to be interesting to see how Potter does rotate the side in this period. You know, players are going to have to be rotated. Reece James is going to be another interesting one because there's no obvious rotational option there unless he plays Loftus-Cheek. There's not really an option. I mean, obviously Aspie, but he can't play wing back, so there's not. Reece James will be interesting to see how his minutes get managed as well. I know he's young and he wants to play every game, but he's not going to be able to play every game either.
Last season, we ran him into the ground just off that. He had like 2-3 injuries that season, and we were so screwed for creativity after he was gone.
Yeah, it's a problem, and it's an area that definitely needs addressing. But back to the game last night. Obviously, Rafael, kind of people dubbing it as almost kind of his Stamford Bridge audition, as almost. I mean, it wasn't a great night for AC Milan. I thought they were pretty poor. But the good moments they had did come through him. I mean, what did you make of him? Do you think it's someone that Chelsea should be sort of continuing to pursue? Because I thought he had a few good moments. He looks lively. He's got good pace, good strength. He's good with the ball at his feet. Looked good in a couple of tight spaces when he created that only chance. Did you like what you saw from him?
In phases, yeah. Like, there was no real defensive output from him, which kind of seemed like a bit of a red flag. But other than that, before he looked really good on the ball, very strong and physical, brilliant technique. Didn't really get to see a lot of end product from him because they were only really playing through Liao, which made him very easy to isolate. And we kind of packed out the right side as well, and it helped us isolate him even more. But other than that, we didn't really see a lot from him. I feel like the best way to see the best out of him is probably next week when he's playing at home. Maybe like it'll be a much more comfortable atmosphere for him. We might see a bit more from him. Hopefully not, but still. Other than that, it was an isolated game from him. We just saw good dribbles, but that was about it.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a long way to go. He's obviously a very talented boy. It'll be interesting to see kind of how quickly and thoroughly we want to follow up our obvious interest in him. But moving away from the game, mate. Reports coming out of France today about the future of N'Golo Kante, saying that he's pretty much adamant now that Chelsea aren't going to offer him a new contract on the terms that he wants, and he wants to stay in London. And apparently, he's been offered to Arsenal and Tottenham. Now, I don't know how true that part is. I mean, you'd think if he wants to stay in London, he's not exactly going to go join QPR or join Willian at Fulham. So it's going to be one of those two teams. Where do you stand on this? Because I think the terms that Kante wants is essentially a 4-year contract, and he would essentially almost be the top earner. He's the second highest earner at the club now. You can't, with his injury record and kind of the amount of games that he's available for, his output on the pitch now, his consistency is nowhere near what it used to be. it doesn't make sense for Chelsea to offer him the terms he wants, does it?
No chance. I'd rather we let him go as opposed to giving him a 3+1 year deal. Like, I like Kante. He's a Chelsea legend. I'll always state that. But he's been on obvious decline for the last few years. And I feel like there's a section of fan base that just aren't willing to accept it. If Kante wants those sorts of terms and he stands by it, I am perfectly happy to let him go to Arsenal or Spurs, even if it would disgust me to see them at wearing their shirt. But it's happened before. I get why Kante would want to stay in London. Like, nice city and all of that. He's settled here. He's been here the last few years. It's the same thing that happened with Czech. Same thing that happened with Willian and Louise, and that's why they went to Arsenal from Chelsea, because they wanted to stay at London. Like, if he goes there, I wouldn't even necessarily be too worried. Like, Arteta loves playing injured players. I could see him run Kante into the ground, and Conte is basically the reason why Kante's been declining so much, because he's the one that played him game in and game out without any rest. And it's the reason why his knees are a mess right now. So if he went there, he'd just do the same thing again.
Mate,
so I'm not worried about if he goes there. It won't make a difference.
Would you take it? Would you take him on a 2+1, or do you just think it's just better to get rid in general?
2+1 if the second year was subject to appearances.
Like, yeah, I think it's got to
be. A certain amount of his weekly wage would be dependent on if he plays or not. Something along the lines of that, or bonus orientated. But that would make me accept a 2+1 deal. If not, if it was just base wages, I'd reluctantly accept it. Because that's still 2 years at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because like he can be good, but the fitness record's awful, and you can tell now like it's one good performance in like 3, 4, 5 games. It's not how it used to be. And obviously, you expect that because he's getting older. You can't perform at the top level, and with his output as well, the way he gets around the pitch, he's kind of an all-action player. Like, it's going to take the toll on his body, and it has done, but. Yeah, I think it's got to be on the club's terms and not Kante's terms. And like you, like obviously I'd be disappointed if he went, but I'm not going to be like crying about it. I think club have got big targets in mind, Alvarez potentially, maybe Jude Bellingham, try and get him. Declan Rice obviously still on the agenda. Like, I think if one of those or a couple of those came in, Kante leaving, people would soon forget. They wouldn't be that fussed. But yeah, interesting to see what happens with him. But I think as it stands, it looks like he could be heading towards the exit door along with Jorginho as well. But looking ahead to the weekend, welcome Wolves to the Bridge. Didn't actually beat Wolves last season. 0-0 at Molineux, 2-2 at Stamford Bridge. So hopefully we can change that. They've just sacked their manager, Bruno Lage. I don't think they've appointed a new one yet. I think they're close to appointing Julian Lopetegui, the Sevilla manager that got sacked last night. I think that could be close, but I'm not sure they're going to make an announcement before Saturday's game. Always dangerous playing a team that's just sat their manager. You might get some sort of new manager bounce. And it's also the return of Diego Costa to Stamford Bridge for the first time since he left in those unfortunate circumstances under Antonio Conte. Firstly, on Diego Costa, mate, how do you feel about him coming back? Do you think he'll get a good reception from the fans?
I look forward to it.
Yeah, look forward to it.
He'll get a good reception. I don't know how long it will last, depending on when and who he tries to beef out of the back three. But I look forward to it. I've missed watching Diego Costa. I hope he doesn't score against us, and I hope Silva pockets him. But it'll be good to see him back, and I know he'll get a good reception anyway. I can't wait for that. The Wolves game, not so much, because AC Milan was brilliant and everything. And like, I'm really happy with the performance, and I hope it motivates the squad and it kickstarts our season. But let's face facts, it was a very open game. Yeah. AC Milan came out to try and attack us despite having a very heavily injured squad, and we're able to capitalize on that. Wolves, in spite of like their poor form and everything, new manager and all of that, they will probably still come here and park 10 men behind the ball. And we hate that. And we never really know how to deal with that, except for just pinballing the ball around. AC Milan was great, but that was not the same game. It was not under the same circumstances or the same environment. I think we're going to struggle a lot more against Wolves, but we can still beat them. We definitely still can. It's about how often are we going to manufacture chances? Are we going to finish our chances? We'll have to see on that. That's all speculation. And I still need Chelsea to kind of give me that sort of confidence, because right now I feel a bit more confident in the squad, but I still know when we play low blocks, that's the bane of us. And until I see us be able to manage our way out of that consistently, that's always going to be our biggest question mark.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest concern. As you said, the Milan game, I was surprised at how poor they were. I mean, and even with all the injuries they had, they still kind of came and they wanted to have a go. They didn't just sit 10 men behind the ball. As you say, Wolves are probably going to do that. I'll probably just leave Costa up there. I mean, they got good players. Neto, Podence are decent players. I mean, if you look at the squad, it's not even that bad. They got Neves, Matinho in midfield. They got that Matthias Nunes, they signed from Sporting Lisbon. Like these are good players, but for whatever reason, it's not happening for them. They struggle to score goals and they struggle to keep them out, which is why they're near the bottom. But they still got players that can harm us. I mean, how much rotation are you expecting from last night, from Wednesday night to this game? I mean, obviously there'll be a change at the back as we've discussed, but in terms of midfield and stuff, I mean, just wanted to touch on someone. I thought Loftus-Cheek was superb last night against Milan. I thought he had a really good game in that pivot. Do you think he's kind of played himself into maybe being a starting midfielder for us again now?
Oh, nah.
No, I don't think so.
Nah, but this is the thing I like about Ruben. He's a squad player that's happy with his position, and he can come out and fill in the job whenever we need him to at midfield or wing back. He has his good games. He definitely has his bad games as well, but he's never asking of too much. He's never demanding of anything. He's just happy to be a squad player. So for that, like I can never put too much energy on Ruben Loftus-Cheek because he's happy to be here and he is a very good part of the squad. Like you need reliable squad players like that, and I believe Ruben Loftus-Cheek is that for us. I thought he was unbelievable. Like Milan didn't know how to deal with him. He was so strong on the ball, just gliding past midfielders for fun. He was helping defensively and offensively in the squad, and I expect us to get battered by their midfield. I never have confidence in our midfield. That's the first time I was watching it. I was like, these two could go for another hour. And they wouldn't tire. Milan wouldn't know how to deal with them. They were just all over them. It was brilliant. Brilliant to watch.
I mean, there are kind of, I would say, a lack of options in midfield, but Kante is clearly still not fit. I doubt he'll start. He may feature from the bench. Jorginho, again, was on the bench against Milan. He could come back into the lineup and start. Kovacic is another one where we don't want to overuse him either. But if we're sticking with kind of the 3-4-3 system, there's not that many options. Like, I don't want to see Conor Gallagher playing a pivot role. You'd almost think it could be the same two again. I mean, would you go with the same two again, or do you think Jorginho will come in for one of Ruben or Kovacic? Because I do worry about Kova, because if we run him into the ground, he's again not quite as bad as Kante, but he picks up a lot of injuries.
I think we have to think of every game with rotation in mind now. So I get how good the two of them played together, but yeah, I would take Kovacic off. I'd put Jorginho in there, or who got subbed off first? Actually, I think it was Kovacic.
Yeah, it was Kovacic for Jorginho.
Yeah, okay. Ruben can take the bench, and we'll go Jorginho and Kovacic for me then.
Yeah, I mean, there's options in there. I mean, I don't think there'll be too much rotation going further forward. What have you made of Aubameyang's start? Because I think a lot of people were a little bit skeptical about the signing, not too sure. Had a difficult start. He wasn't fit, obviously, with his jaw with the mask on. Since the mask's come off, he's looked good. He's got 2 goals in 2 games. I can't believe a Chelsea number 9 has scored in back-to-back games. Mm-hmm. Seems like forever since that's happened. How impressed have you been with him? I'm not in general. I mean, look, his all-round play is not that amazing, but that's not what he's here for. He's just here to be in the right place and put the ball in the net. And at the moment, he's doing that. He's had 2 opportunities in the last 2 games, and he's put both of them away. I mean, are you pleased with how he's doing?
I'm so happy. So happy. It's taken ages for us to have some experience finishing in the final third, but we finally have it, and we've got someone who can score with limited chances. I do believe, even with his all-round play, he is much better in possession than people are giving him credit for. Like, everyone was saying he's just a poacher, just a goal scorer, can't do anything else other than that. His link-up play is all right. He should have had an assist for Mason Mount if he stayed on side in the first half. And his 1-2s with Sterling, Mount, they've been great. Like, there's not been out of this world, but like, he's kept possession going. Like, he's not stopped our play or anything. I think he's been very progressive with us. That yes, there are periods where he ghosts and everything, but that's because we're not getting the ball to him. Like, his job is specifically to make those runs. When it was Havertz and he was making those runs, everyone was saying the problem is we're not finding him enough. No, the problem is that not that we're not finding him enough. It's the limited time that we do. He's not showing any quality on it. The difference is Aubameyang does it with limited touches. That is the difference right there. And in what's going to be a very tight top 4 race, the one thing we needed was a reliable goal scorer. It's only 2 games in. Like, there'll be ups and downs, I'm sure. But Aubameyang is already proving that he can bang goals for us. And as long as we can continue to find him at least once or twice a game, there's no reason not to expect him to score. And if he doesn't, we hold him accountable to the same thing as well.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I think it looks like, I know it's early stages, as you say, but you've got someone that is not going to need 3 or 4 opportunities to put the ball in the net. You'd expect him to get it like in a couple of opportunities. He misses one, he's going to stick the next one away. And that's what we've been lacking, you know. We thought Lukaku was the answer. It wasn't. You look at the other forwards, they're none of them are clinical. So if we can, I know creativity is an issue for us, but if we can just supply a couple of chances a game to him, he can read the game well. He's sharp in the box, and his finishing is still second to none. So I think there's a lot to be excited about with him. But it's just going to rely on us to just make sure we can create those chances, because that is one area that we do worry about. I mean, even Sterling against Milan, like I like Sterling, and I'm not criticizing him for what he's done for Chelsea this season, because he's pretty much carried the attack, but there's a number of occasions, and it was the same against Palace. He gets into good positions, he takes too long on the ball, or he takes too many touches, and he tries to go past one too many people. Like, if he could just release the ball a bit quicker, we would actually have a lot more opportunities. Like in a match, he's done it. He did it at City as well. He just holds on to the ball for a little bit too long. If he just released it a bit quicker, I mean, even for the Reece James goal that he set up, I mean, like watching it on the TV, like I thought he was almost messed that up as well. Like, luckily he played it just in time. Yeah,
because he looks like he's about to shoot, and then he's like, nope, slides it off into Reece James.
Yeah,
that's the experience that you want there. And I get what you're saying. Like, there are times where he is frustrating. He takes way too many touches, and like you said, first half against AC Milan, perfect position to shoot, took an extra touch, lost the ball. That's what you get with Sterling, though. This is the thing. Like, I don't mind if he trusts his dribbling too much, because he is a brilliant dribbler. I don't mind if he always looks for the pass a bit too much, because he's our only creative outlet in the final third, unless Reece James is there. So if we're relying on him that much, then he's going to have the instructions to always look for a player. So I don't blame him for doing that. If we had more creators around the entire squad, Sterling could afford to be a little bit more selfish. But in spite of all of that, still got an assist.
Yeah.
He's still showing impact in games. That was probably his worst performance of the season. That is an incredibly high standard compared to all of our other attackers. Because when it's Mount or it's Havertz, they'll have a terrible game, and all we can flex is their work rate and their distance covered stats. Sterling is still showing up in the final third, even though he is hella frustrated. He's still drawing fouls. He's still getting assists. He's still impacting the side. That's where we need to be. So I get what we're saying with Sterling and everything. There are areas that we want to see him improve on, but if that's his bad performances, that's like fucking Havertz's best performance.
Yeah,
the golfing class, or Pulisic's, or Ziyech's.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a couple of those players before we round this episode out. Let's talk about Christian Pulisic first. Obviously, I think he's done at the club in my opinion. Obviously, he came off the bench against Palace at last weekend and got the assist for the Conor Gallagher goal. Were you surprised last night? 5 subs. Didn't see him at all. I'm not saying he's the answer, but he can offer something different. I mean, he frustrates me. I don't think there's a talented player in there, but I don't think that we've got our value for money, or we've seen anywhere near what he's capable of. The fact that people still refer to like Project Restart Pulisic goes to show like how little he's actually really pushed on in his Chelsea career. There's been a few moments here and there, a few key goals, but I think last night for him to 5 subs against AC Milan in the Champions League, the game's done at 3-0. It's done at 2-0. He doesn't come on at all. I mean, do you think he's done? We could maybe look to cut ties in January potentially. I don't know, but it's clear that he's not fancied.
It's early to say with him, but I'd say if he doesn't start the Wolves game, then we can really like have a look at it, because like I always said, Pulisic was either going to start yesterday or he was going to start against Wolves, because he probably is the first player that you would rotate with, him or Havertz, really. But
Yeah.
even in that case, it's like they're both on the same form, so you just pick whoever you want. But I'd say Pulisic should be starting the Wolves match, because
Yeah.
we do have to have some sort of rotation that match and give him an opportunity to prove himself. If he doesn't start, or unimaginably, if he doesn't even come off the bench, then fair enough. We can have this Pulisic tour. Right now, I just think it's a bit unlucky. I am surprised that he didn't come off in the second half, but if it means that he's just fresh for Wolves, fine. I don't mind. But my eyes are now on the Wolves game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, one guy who I don't know what's going on with him. What's going on with Dennis Zakaria? You know, comes in on loan on deadline day. I think that's clearly was a board motivated signing. They probably looked at it and thought, "Fuck, we need a midfield player."
That wasn't even a board. That was just cluelessness. Because I'm not even saying it about Zakaria in a bad way, because he hasn't even proven us.
Hasn't even featured.
Yeah, like, but we had 2 days, right, after the Southampton game between that and deadline day, right? And in that time is the only period where we thought, oh, we need a DM. Yeah. We go and we get this. We go and put in a random bid for Zakaria. Juve are so quick to get rid of him. He's already having the medical an hour later. So I'm looking at this like the boards haven't really put their stamp on him. Tuchel never really did.
No.
Potter didn't. He just walked in here. So now Zakaria's he's like in the Saul role. He's just there. And I hope he gets an opportunity. Like I can't say nothing about his ability until I see him play, but everything just screamed panic buy, and the results are there. Like nobody's even brought him off the bench.
That's an unused sub. I mean, he didn't even make the bench at Palace. Like he travelled, didn't even make the bench.
Kill off a game. Like, wouldn't you want to bring on a DM to kill a game off? Like we brought on Jorginho for that. I had the desired effect. But like, talking about rotation, like you could have done the same thing with him.
I'm surprised he didn't get any minutes last night, even just like a few at the end or something. I mean, maybe he might get some minutes against Wolves, but it is odd because he's been playing for Switzerland in the international break, so he's obviously fit. But I don't really know what's going on there, to be honest. But hopefully we see him at some point, because it would be nice to kind of see what he can do, because we have got an option to buy if it were to be a successful loan spell. Which at the moment that looks quite far off because he can't even get on the pitch. But I mean, to round out, mate, score predictions for the Wolves game. What are you thinking? Do you think we can make it 3 Premier League wins in a row? I mean, it feels like a while since that's happened.
Maybe I'm going to try and keep the positive spirits going. We'll go to 2-0. Yeah, let's go 2-0.
Yeah, go for a 2-0.
But no Jorginho penalty this time. We'll go Sterling and Aubameyang, because I'm now starting to have more faith in them two up top.
Yeah, no, I think we'll win. I'm going to go for a 2-1. I mean, it was great we got our first clean sheet since the opening day of the season last night. I think we might let one in, but yeah, I think we got enough. We go for a 2-1 win. But yeah, it'll be 3 wins on the spin, in the league, which, I mean, it shouldn't really be something we're celebrating as supporting Chelsea, and that should just kind of be fairly standard. But it goes to show how bad things have been in the recent past, where getting 3 league wins in a row for the first time since God knows when is kind of something to celebrate. But yeah, this is a good point to round out the episode, guys. Remember to smash the likes on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and we'll catch you in episode 4 in the next couple of days. But until then, guys, take care and up the Chelsea.